Hey guys, and welcome to today's video where I'm finally doing an updated room tour. I haven't done one since we first built the room, since we first moved in and you saw what it originally looked like and what it now is. Obviously a few bits have changed since then, so let's start off with this big tower here. So this is where Diego and Gizmo live. Both tanks are from custom reptile habitats. They're both bioactive. They're both 3 foot long. I think Diego's is 80 gallons and Gizmo is 60 gallon if you go US gallon. But during the day, I must admit, they do hide a lot. You don't see them as much, so we won't see them right now. But they do use all the space and I really love having these tanks. Obviously the plan is to have a second tower which will go here, and then Minnie will live in the top one and the new Gecko, when it's old enough, will live in the bottom one. Above Gizmo's tank we have my ant colonies. So on the left we have Liz, she is a black garden ant. And on the right we have Audrey, the harvester ant. Now the harvester ant and that little setup is from Ants HQ, and you may be noticing a new setup here. So the one in the middle is also from Ants HQ. So this colony has lived in here for ages. I think this colony is 3 or 4 years old, maybe 3, and they're doing so well. However, they needed to get out of that test tube because it was full. So I tried to connect them to a white hole nest. They would not move out for months, and then Ants HQ suggested this, and I will leave a link below because it is so cool. So the Outworld and the nest connect magnetically. You may have noticed these buttons down here. Well, they operate the light in each chamber, so if you did want to spy on your ants, you can. I haven't used that feature yet just because I'm trying to move them in, so I don't want to disturb them too much. But overnight they started moving in like brood. There's still brood and the queen left in the test tube, but they filled this up. The Outworld is a lot easier to access for me, and it's a lot bigger. So overall, I absolutely love this nest. If you do have a colony that needs to get into something a bit bigger, highly recommend this. Now this is Audrey, the harvester ant queen, and she actually has quite a few workers now. I haven't had her long, but they're doing really well. I tried to film them last night. This camera isn't great with focus, but they're doing really well as well. So next to this tower, we have this new little thing going on. So this isn't a permanent structure. This basically is somewhere where I could put the baby gecko and also store all the feeder insects, because obviously we have the standard size for all the adults, but then we need the mini size for the baby. So we have a lot of feeder insects and breeding colonies. And also you can see I've got some equipment. So as you may know, I'm currently building Drogo's new tank. So we're not done yet, but this is the equipment I'll be using. Now, if you want to see the little baby, I did think it was going to shed last night, so I took out the cold hide and put in this humid hide. But probably this weekend as I film this, so by the time this video goes up, it's probably going to be done. I'm going to probably move it into its own vivarium, which you'll see in a moment. But it's doing really well, growing, shedding, eating really well. So yeah. Then this is just my little working area. We also have this tub here, which has a chrysalis in. So we're currently doing the garden, and a wall came down, and under the wall or next to the wall was this chrysalis. So my boyfriend rushed up to me because I've raised quite a few hawk moth, like chrysalis moths before. So we're just keeping it safe until it's ready to hatch out, and then we will let it go free. Down here looks a little bit like a mess because we have the drainage layer for Drogo's tank. We've got some gecko waters in the back, the sprayer I use, and an aircon unit. So if you didn't know, it's quite rare that a house in the UK will have built-in aircon. I mean, maybe if you're really fancy, I don't know. But I had to get a unit for this room because this room gets so hot. We do have a blackout blind, we have tinted the windows, but it's a south-facing garden, south-facing room, and this just gets too hot. So the aircon, oh, it was expensive, but it was worth it. talking of temperature, I did just want to give a shout out to Govee. They actually sent me this Wi-Fi thermometer and hygrometer. It's wireless control, so if you've got the app you can check it. And I found it really handy. So I obviously have a thermometer and hygrometer in here anyway, so if I'm in the room I can read it. But if I'm out of the room, say I'm down in the garden or I'm out and I want to quickly check the temperature and humidity, I can. I can also compare it throughout the day, throughout the week, month, even the year. Obviously you'll see it go up and down because in the evenings it gets cooler. England's actually quite humid at times. Today in particular is very humid. So, you know, the humidity might look quite high, but obviously with the leopard geckos they have their heaters, so the tank's a lot drier, so don't worry about that. But this has been incredibly handy. It's not even that expensive. I'll leave a link below, but thank you to Govee for sending it to me. Then over this side we have Drogo and Lyra. Their doors aren't normally open, but it's incredibly reflective, so you won't be able to see in the tanks. Plus the watermarks. I moan about this every time and you guys always come back with me with tips. But I still use bottled water and then I wash down the glass and they still get marks. So it's not dirty. It's just watermarks. They're really annoying. Anyway, they're doing really great. So obviously this is the size tank Lyra has and Drogo's is going to be the same. So it will probably take up the majority of this space and the beetles here will be moved. But the beetles are doing really well. We're on our like second generation because they won't stop breeding. Once again, we have a lot of watermarks here. The joys. But yeah, they keep breeding. There's so many grubs that I've had to feed some off to my geckos, but the bigger ones get through and become beetles again, so yeah. And then down here we have Minnie's vivarium and the baby gecko's future vivarium. Don't worry, the aircon isn't going to be in front of it. It's just because that isn't being used right now and I was tidying stuff up, I put that to the side. But as I said, probably this weekend I'm going to move it in. We're going to have Earth Mix arid in there, UV, deep heat projector. I'm going to try to keep the layout quite simple because it is still quite a small gecko. But I just can't wait because I hate that funarium. But as I said, eventually Minnie will get a bigger tank. Same with the baby gecko. But for now, this lower rack is for the leopard geckos. Next to them you may have noticed this sort of trailing plant. This is a mini monstera, also sort of known as a fake Swiss cheese plant. It is a real plant, but it looks like a Swiss cheese plant, but technically it's not. But yeah, I've been sort of training it to grow up the side of the rack system, and yeah, I think it looks really cool. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this room tour. I mean, this room is really small. There's not loads to show you. I know the majority of like reptile room tours or pet room tours, the rooms are usually massive. Usually they're probably in America. You guys have like such nice big houses. We don't get a lot for our money over here, and this room is about 3 by 3 meters. So it is quite small. And of course, if I kept all my reptiles in tanks this small, I could have hundreds. But my aim is to go from that to that. So even though this area could house hundreds of leopard geckos and drawers if I wanted to, they only house 2 because my aim is just to give them a nice big home. Why not? They only live once, they only live with us, so we want to give them a nice life. But yeah, so this is kind of a really small reptile room tour, but I hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please subscribe. But thank you for watching and goodbye.